Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We need to do a little bit of formality here and report out from the executive closed session that occurred earlier this evening. And the report out is there was no action taken. And with that, we will close the meeting for the executive committee and open the regularly scheduled board meeting for the board of directors. Welcome. Would you all please rise and join me in the pledge? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Thank you all very much. We have the Metro Cable announcement. Open session meeting is videotaped for cablecast on Metro Cable 14. Replay on Monday, October 28th at 6 p.m., Tuesday, October 29th at 9 a.m. on Channel 14. It's also webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. The open session meetings are also available for viewing on the district website at www.metrofire.ca.gov. All right, we have one agenda change. The presentation item number 1 has been removed from the agenda, and we will move to public comment. We have 2 speakers now and 1 later on an agenda item. Madam Clerk, would you please call our speakers? Because we are in the public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within district jurisdiction, including items on or not on the agenda.
Yes, our first speaker this evening is Mr. David Warren. If you would join us at the podium, please.
Thank you. I've passed out a letter, or I hope you have a copy of the letter that I sent. It is not to you. I'm here tonight not concerning the fire department. I'm concerning the people you hire to do the billing. Unfortunately, my wife had a serious medical incident and required further transportation. And much to my surprise, I received a $3,400 bill for transportation because not only do I have Medicare, but I also have a supplement of medical insurance, which in the past has always taken care of all the billing. When I received the bill, I immediately wrote a letter. I haven't attached the bill nor the attachment from my Medicare supplement saying what is going on, because in the past I have received full Medicare coverage and provided proof of payment through Medicare, and of course I received no response. I then called the billing office and asked to speak to someone, and they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we'll take a message, someone will get back to you within the next 3 or 4 weeks." And I said, "Is there a supervisor there?" And they said, "No." I said, "Can you have someone call me back?" And they transferred me to voicemail, left a voice message, and no one called back. I called back 2 days later, went through the same rigmarole, and again, no one called back. I called the third time 4 days later because of the weekend. Again, received no call back. I then sent an email to Ms. Brenda Briggs, who happened to be on vacation, and not receiving a response from her, called the fire department phone number, and it was transferred to Captain Benton. Captain Benton said he would call the billing office and have someone call me within the next 48 hours. Let me simply say I would be dead if I had waited and held my breath, because of course no one called back. Ms. Briggs called me and when she returned from vacation and asked what was happening. I explained the situation. She said she would follow up and assured me someone would call, and again, no one called. I then, after a week went by, called Captain Benton to see if he'd been actually able to contact the billing office. He said he had, but he would follow up again, and hopefully someone would call me. And again, no one called. Finally, this last week, someone called to tell me, "Yep, there's a billing error, and we're going to try to resubmit the information to Medicare." I said, "Well, did you provide them any new information?" He said, "Well, we don't have any. I just wrote them and said there's a billing error." Well, obviously, the same bureaucrats who denied the first claim aren't going to make any change. You guys really need to get someone smart over at your billing office. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but when you write and you call and no one calls back, and then when someone calls back and said, "We just resubmitted without making any changes," it makes no sense, because just as Albert Einstein said, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. It's disrespectful to the people who rely on the building service and the fire department. I ask that you call these people in and have a little heart-to-heart with them and explain that we deserve a modicum of courtesy. Now, the last woman who finally called said, if Medicare doesn't fix it, maybe we can work out something to help you with the $3,400 cost. That really isn't an answer because I pay, between my wife and myself, $800 a month for a Medicare supplement to make sure that this doesn't happen. And I can't understand why the billing office can't take care of it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, sir, and your comments are noted for the record. Thank you. Okay, and I understand we have one additional speaker.
Yes, our next speaker.
Thank you, Chief, for taking care of that.
Our next speaker is Ms. Helen Pearson.
Good evening, Madam Chair and board members. My name is Helen Pearson, and I'm the CEO of Medic Ambulance Service. We are disappointed that the board put the RFP cancellation on the consent agenda rather than not using it as an action item for discussion. Medic Ambulance Service did everything throughout the process that we were asked to do. We don't understand why the bid is being canceled. The bid said the lowest, most responsible bidder would be selected. All the bidders knew this. It was said in black and white. We all knew that the proposals were going to be scored. The bid process had a review committee whom recommended Medic Ambulance. Medic also was the lowest, most responsible bidder. The message the board is sending is that you want AMR. So if this is the case, then why did you do an RFP at all? It was stated by the president of the union of AMR that Medic Ambulance had 15 to 20 active NLRB complaints. He said that at the June 13th meeting. Some of you might remember that. As we stated at that meeting, and I want to repeat it, that was a false, slanderous lie. We have only one, and that goes back to 2017. This was one just of the many false and misleading statements made that night regarding Medic Ambulance. We have grave concerns with what the AMR union has done. One of them being that on the night after the meeting, they put on their social media that they had met with 4 members of the board and that they were proud and patted themselves on the back that all 4 of those members had voted against the contract. You see, Medic didn't get a chance to meet you or come to board meetings because we were told not to contact the board members while this process was going on. We followed the rules. As a local business person and a resident of Sacramento, I cannot tell you how very disheartening this is to be treated this way and have the rules of the RFP be rewritten, especially in the last minute, to throw away the RFP that has already been done. We just wanted you to be aware of our thoughts and urge you to do the right thing. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. It's noted on the record. Okay, at this point, we will be convening to close session. Please stick around. We should be back shortly. Thank you. All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We will reconvene the Board of Directors meeting. The report out for conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation from closed session. The report is no action was taken. I do have 2 brief announcements before we take consent. One is that after our action items, we will adjourn for a few minutes to go down and admire our wrapped engines for the cancer awareness prevention timetable that we're in. And also, we will be closing the meeting with a moment of silence for Deputy Brian Ishmael. And with that, Chair will entertain a motion for consent.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Director Sailors,
Aye.
Gould,
Aye.
Sheets,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Barnes,
Aye.
and Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move to action items. Action item number 1, sale of real property, Kenneth Greenback Citrus Heights. We have our Economic Development Officer, Manager, Jeff Fry. Welcome to the podium.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, Board Directors and Chief Harms. As you just said, I'm here to walk you through a staff recommendation to authorize the fire chief to execute the sale of a vacant lot at the corner of Kenneth and Greenback. And I just want to say up front here that this process we just went through is really about the process as much as the outcome, and I think I'll make that clear through this presentation. But if you recall, back in January 2017, we brought this to the board to essentially allow us to declare this piece of property as surplus and move forward with the process. And we started that with an appraisal, and I think that's just common best practices in a public government setting, and creating some kind of transparency for the public and how we handle these dispositions. That appraisal came back at $750,000. With some experience in the appraisal world and the development world, we knew as soon as we got the appraisal that was really high. And I will tell you the standard practices of the appraisal profession, referred to as USPAP, and how developers determine value that they're willing to pay for a piece of land are very, very different processes, and rarely do they match. But as a matter of process and being in a government agency, we started with the appraisal price, and then offered that price to all of the local agencies as required by the California Surplus Land Act. At that point in time, the Citrus Heights Water District did express interest. We had a quick couple of conversations and talked about the price, and at that price, they just felt it was entirely too high and it wasn't for them at that time. So we moved forward, retained CBRE to market this as a potential commercial site, slightly different than the 33 sale as a residential site, and began to market it as such. And we went through a process, again, as much for transparency as anything, where we started with the appraisal price, exposed it to the market, did the marketing blasts and emails, try to get developers to come take a look at it. And through a process, we would essentially market the price, drop the price, remarket it, and went through that over about 2.5 years until we finally got to the price of $300,000. Which was essentially pushed out through marketing efforts on August 15th. I thought from my experiences, what I know of the market, that would have been about the number that we would have started getting some interest. And it really didn't happen right away. We got some just mild phone calls, maybe a letter of interest that we wouldn't call a real offer. And typically what we mean by a real offer is a lot of the times potential developers will try to submit some kind of price with very little deposit or cash down and try to tie up the property for a year or two as a due diligence period, and then use that as an opportunity to renegotiate price way down the line after you've already committed. So our partners at CBRE are very familiar with these, quote unquote bad actors, and were able to talk us through when we were getting those type of offers. So after a couple of months at this $300,000 price, I started to actively make calls to see how do we get some interest at this price, and recontracted the water district. We thought at this price they might be interested, and as it turns out, they were very interested. So they moved forward and got the information materials to their board last week, and they were quickly approved to move forward with the offer you see today. We had a number of conversations with the water district last week about how this would happen, and that is what you see in front of you with the letter of interest. This is going to be done in 2 parts. It's pretty standard when dealing with water agencies in this type of process. What you have is an option, which is a separate agreement, and it allows for a 2-year process The compensation to to us, the fire district, is $5,000 for that process. And during that time, they're going to do their due diligence. And that'll include some boring, some well testing to see in fact that there's water there and it's usable. And that process is expensive and takes time. In best case scenario, that's a 9-month process. Can take 12 to 16 months, depending on winter months and so forth. So they asked for a 2-year option. And if they get the results back that they truly expect to get back, then they would essentially, out of that option to purchase, execute it, and we would move forward with the purchase and sale agreement. And that purchase price there you see before you is the $300,000. So we feel good about it. I think kind of lessons learned from Station 33. We like that this is a public agency, and it's going to support another local agency. We feel that it is a real offer coming from a public agency, and we feel good, even though this could be a year or two process, we feel good about it. We were assured by the Director of Operations there that they've done this type of contract twice before, and in both occasions they found what they were looking for, the water that they were looking for, and it ultimately did or will result in a sale. So we felt like this was strong enough to bring to the board for your consideration. A couple of points that I just want to note, especially in lessons learned from the sale of 33. We heard from the public there, we quickly heard that there is some value into directly engaging citizens that are directly around the site to get input from them. We did have that in mind in this potential transaction. Ultimately did not move forward with that, and I have 3 reasons I think you'll find valid. First is this is another public agency. It's not a private party. They have done some preliminary outreach about the potential site as a water site. No real response, no concerns. Second part of that is there is an option and sale. This is going to be a long process. So in essence, the soonest we'll execute a purchase and sale agreement here is probably a year out. In comparison to the 2 weeks that happened in Station 33 situation. And the third and the biggest reason is the CEQA process. So I'm sure if you are familiar with CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, essentially what happens as a part of that process is if you propose development, there is a public engagement period that is always included in CEQA. And at that point in time, the proposer, in this case the Water District, is obligated to to have public contact and sort through any issues that the public may have. So I think with those 3 pieces, this is a very different scenario here than what we experienced with the sale of 33. And finally, if the board were to take the staff recommendation, there will be a review of documents. Right now, we just have that letter of intent. There will be the option agreement and the purchase and sale agreement. We will follow best practices, take that for legal review, and make sure everything's in place to protect the district. So with that, I will end my presentation here and ask for any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Fry? Comments, sir?
Jeff, thanks very much for that explanation. It was very clear, and I'm really happy to see that we're doing it with the Water District as another public agency. I'm really supportive of that. During this investigatory kind of time that this agency will be coming on the property and doing the testing that you've suggested, I'm kind of familiar with that piece of land, and I'm wondering what protection we have to keep folks out that shouldn't be on that property, kind of keep it clean and presentable to the community, those things, as another agency is coming through that property. What kind of language is in any kind of an agreement that says once you start coming on the land and doing what you need to do, you kind of assume some of the liability for that, and we want you to lock it down. We don't need it becoming a camp for folks that may not necessarily own it.
Sure. And that is a part of that option agreement. That language is usually, in my experience, in that where there's kind of a caretaker agreement.
Right.
So not only do they incur some of the responsibility, liability as they're testing and using that site, but B, they're also obligated to maintain the property in good working order and make sure that it's safe for all that may be around the property. So again, those are the type of things that are in the agreement, and we'll certainly run that through council.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are any other questions? All right, Chair will entertain a motion for this action item.
Chair, I'd move staff's recommendation.
I second.
All right, it's been first and seconded. Please call the roll.
Director Sailors,
Aye.
Gould,
Aye.
Sheets,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Barnes,
Aye.
and Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you very much. Moving to our second action item, Sacramento Local Agency Formation Commission, known as LAFCO. We have an election for Special District Commissioner, Office Number 6, and alternate Special District Commissioner, Office Number 6 and 7. And I understand we have a speaker on this agenda item?
We do have a speaker, Mr. Brandon Rose, if you would like to join us at the podium.
All right, well, good evening. My name is Brandon Rose. I am the SMUD Ward 1 board member. My territory is Citrus Heights, Orangevale, Fair Oaks, and half of Folsom, so I represent about 120,000 voters. I'm here tonight because I am one of the 8 candidates that threw their name into the hat for this LAFCO Special District election, so it is quite a full pool of people, and really I've found, I'll tell you a little bit about my background. In my experience, it's best to come and put a name and face together so you know who I am. So I've been on the SMUD board since 2016. Prior to that, I was elected to the Fair Oaks Recreation Park District starting in 2008. I was reelected 3 times. So I have a lot of special district experience, and I really understand some of the needs and wants out in the unincorporated county. I was appointed as one of the special district on the LAFCO Advisory Committee, 2009, 2010, 2011, so I'm very familiar with LAFCO and its operations. I've also done a fair bit of environmental volunteer work, and I've continued to follow LAFCO's operations since about 2007, so very familiar with the agency, how it operates, and what it does. After being on the advisory committee, I was elected as a special district representative to the Sacramento County Treasury Oversight Committee, which oversees the county treasury. Typically, there's about $4 billion in the treasury at any given time, and I was chairman of that committee from 2014 to 2018. I just recently came off because SMUD has its own treasury department, and so I didn't feel it was appropriate to stay on in that position without being directly in an agency in the pool, in the combined pool. So that's my sort of elected experience. My day job, I work for the state of California at the Air Resources Board, so I do have an RJ real job. SMUD is typically a 20 to 30 hour a week commitment, and I do public health diesel related regulations predominantly, and diesel filters, heavy duty equipment, and we've been slowly moving into more of the electrification side of heavy duty trucks and buses. So it's a very active, innovating, interesting sector, and there's some nice overlap between my day job and SMUD as well. And before that, I worked at the California Energy Commission, hence the SMUD Energy connection, doing solar and wind power. So a lot of good background. In terms of how I think LAFCO should operate, I really am a fan of very logical growth. If we get a proposal, we go back and we look at what does the general plan say? What do these plans that are 20, 30, 40 years out say? What does the urban services boundary look like? And you ask, is this consistent with that? I mean, it's not a complicated process. And so I think there's really an advocate of responsible, logical growth. Some of the issues that LAFCO deals with is annexations and things like that. And so this is roughly my 20th board meeting I've attended in the last month and a half. And I've been through the gamut of everybody from water districts to reclamation districts I've been down in Cortland at their fire district. Everybody has a different perspective and issues. But for example, North Highlands had a large condo project, a couple thousand condos that they were potentially having built in their territory, in their district boundaries, and the developer was trying to change the boundary of their district to get out of their $300 per unit park development impact fee, which is what's going to fund the parks for that project. And so there's really specific issues that we run into. And I'm fundamentally a big fan of special districts in that we know what's going on the ground. And when you say, hey, we're talking about the land at Kenneth and Greenback, I was like, oh, yeah, I drive by that every week going to the gym, right, across the street from the fire station. So, and that's the real value of knowing your community the best. And so I really would protect the power of special districts. The state is constantly coming up with new unfunded mandates, and the county, and so I really would be an advocate to make sure our power as a special district is maintained and not taken away. One of my mentors on the Fair Oaks Recreation and Park District is John O'Farrell, who's a former county executive, and that's one of the things he taught me. Make sure these are special, these are important. He's like, I was here when they were created, and so make sure you maintain that. So. I could probably keep talking about myself, but I think that's a sort of a decent background. It's a crowded field, but I've definitely been getting out to as many meetings as I can. I would certainly appreciate your support. And if you have any questions, feel free to shoot away as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Are there any questions from any of the directors? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have any other speaker cards?
There are no other speakers.
All right, so we have the Commissioner Office, and then we also have the alternate special district. And I would like to take this opportunity to nominate, to make the motion to nominate Brandon Rose for the Special District Commissioner.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any comments? All right, please call the roll.
Dr. Sailors.
Aye.
Gould.
Aye.
Sheets.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Wood.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Barnes.
Aye.
And Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we're going to move to the alternate special district commissioner. This commissioner serves on the LAFCO Commission in the absence of one of the two special district commissioner absences. So I did want to mention for both these positions, and I apologize for not mentioning it before, but I'm very pleased that we have an extremely deep bench to choose from on these two positions. So that is, I very much acknowledge that and appreciate everyone's participation in that. And with that, I would like to nominate Charlie Moore for the alternate commissioner.
Second.
All right, it's been first and seconded. Please call the roll.
Dr. Sailors.
Aye.
Gould.
Aye.
Sheets.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Wood.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Barnes.
Aye.
And Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Rose, thank you for your presentation. Okay, I had initially said earlier to my colleagues that maybe now we would take time to go out and take a look at the wrapped engines. Are they still available? Chief Bridge?
Is there a light outside?
Oh, right, is it functional? Is it, yeah, they got lights. You know what, to tell you the truth, if you guys can hold, have you had dinner? Yes, ma'am. Okay, I would like to power through and finish up with the report so we can take our time out there and visit and look at, in the compartments, check out the gear, and talk with our firefighters. So if you can please bear with us for a few more minutes, I'd appreciate that. What?
That means make the reports really short.
Oh, I didn't say.
Pressure, Chief.
Okay. President's report, met with Cordova 2x2, very excellent, appreciate it. It was a terrific exchange of ideas, ongoing working together in cooperation. Fire Chief's report.
Don't look at me like that. Good evening, directors. I just want you, when you go out there, is please be careful. And when you open up any cabinets or anything,
let crap fall and hit 'em?
let the membership open the cabinet first before you open up any cabinets that are out there.
I'm sure everything is secured inside the compartments, Chief, as they always are.
I think he meant to say, don't open compartments, Gay.
No, I just, guys, just don't let anybody open a compartment without you opening it first. So a few things going on.
Point taken, thank you.
The other day, it was a great day. We had a promotion ceremony here. We had 22 new engineers that were promoted, that competed through the process and are out in the district. Effective on November 11th, Mike Lozano will be promoted to Assistant Chief, and he will be the shift commander. And on November 6th, Ty Bailey will be promoted to Battalion Chief, and I believe shift Battalion 5? Yes. Correct, okay, good. So congratulations to them. Captain Brian Benton was selected to fill the EMS Day Battalion Chief assignment. I hope he stays. But he is there now to fill that position for us. We will backfill his position with another captain. We hired a Fire Inspector 1, Manny Batiste. He started just last week. I think with him coming on board, that only leaves 2 empty spots in fire prevention, is that we've been trying to bolster up and fill all the open positions that are there. Last weekend, on the 12th and the 13th, members of Metro Fire and through through the coordination of our association, played in the Metro Fire soccer team for the Officer Terrell Sullivan charity soccer game. One of the stars of that game is sitting right to my left. I heard that she played quite a bit of time out there. And some old skills that none of us ever knew came out. But they did a great job. They had a number of teams. So I'll get a little applause there for you. A number of teams, but they went out there. I think at first they had a number of people that were on the bench, but by the time they got down to the end, I think some people played the whole game. Last week we met with Las Vegas Fire, their executive and command staff, and just talked about some of the differences and some of the similarities, and talked on everything from fire operations, but a lot on EMS and really where they are with their community paramedicine, ambulance deployment and training. And surprising, they have some of the absolute same struggles that we have, whether it would be paramedics or hiring or some of the responses that are going on. The county chiefs, we met last week, and the last thing was on Tuesday and Wednesday, we did the kickoff of the Professional Development Program, or what's called PDP. We met 4 sessions, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. We had about 125 folks. Chief Bridge and I kicked it off, and it was called What's on Your Mind? So it was open to discussion on whatever the membership wanted to talk about. They, as always, were not too talkative, so we had to give them some things to talk about. So we talked about what was their challenge, and if they could change one thing in the district, what would that be? So it was really a good time. I think I find those very positive, to be able to sit down with the membership. And when you're trying to get them to leave and they're still trying to stay and ask more questions is always good. That ends my report.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. Now we have Chief Bridge Ops report, please.
Okay, good evening, directors. Eric Bridge, Deputy Chief Operations. Sorry I missed you a couple weeks ago, but the numbers appeared to be about the same. But I do want to talk about some other things. There was some deployment back then, as you're aware, and that our resources have returned from back from that. It was called the Bryceburg incident in Mariposa County, and they were gone from October 8th through October 13th. But of course, a large resource order is pending now. As most of you are probably aware, if you're watching the news, a large fire has broken out in the near Geyserville up by Lake County. So they've evacuated Geyserville today. The town, the fire has made a large run early this morning. So it's currently had some notes on that. Fire activity's been real high with the fuels being dry and wind driven. Again, like I said, a sizable resource order will come tonight, so our green engines are probably going to be picked for that. So we'll be assisting the folks up there. Evacuations are still in progress. More details are being gathered. There have been some structures lost. There's also a few more incidents throughout the state, Southern California and in Northern California, that we're currently monitoring right now. Also, in addition to that, around here, just so you have a little perspective on who our busiest medic was over the last 2 weeks, that was Medic 23 with 187 responses for those last 2 weeks, but not to be outdueled too much by about 4 or 5 other medic units, the usual suspects, 41 and 24, and I know I'm leaving a few of them out, but they're right there at 186 responses and 185. So over 14 days, and you're talking about a difference in 2 calls, they're all running about 14 to 15 a day as on an average. And engine 53, again, was the top engine getter for us. So with that, that concludes my operational reports, and I look forward to sharing the beautiful pink and blue engine out there with all of you. And I really want to big thanks out to the crews from 32 for coming out and sharing the time, and the rest of the membership that's here. They continue to do a fantastic job out there for us, and I'm very, very proud to be a part of it. So anything else you have for me or questions?
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Chief Bridge.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate that. All right, moving on to SMFD Firefighters Local 522 report.
Good evening, President Jones, directors, Chief of Arms, and staff. Always wonderful to be here in front of you. I wanted to first also say I think the nomination of Brandon Rose is good for Metro. I think he's do a great job representing us in that role. Tonight, I wanted to talk about what we had a collaboration with the local and Metro with an event for women back in Boston. Chief Harms brought something to my attention, and basically the day of the executive meeting for 522, and we were able to kind of scramble and find some funds to be able to send 3 female members from 522, one from Metro, one from Consumus, and one from City, back to Boston, and kind of in a short time frame, on November 8th for a women's conference to cover everything from cancer to mental health. So we're gonna, at 522, is gonna cover the expense to fly back 3 of our members to Boston for that event, and can't wait to have that come home and hear about that, because as the fire service gets more diverse, and we've had these discussions, and in Metro, how do we move and cope with bathroom issues, and there's a variety of things we've all talked about. So I'm very proud that Metro and City and Consumus is sending a member back there for that event. So I appreciate Chief Harms bringing that to me, and then I also appreciate the 522 Executive Board acting in a very expeditious manner to get that done. And finally, I just wanted to say, I think, keep this brief, is, when we lose a brother in blue, Deputy Brian Ishmael from El Dorado County, we're all out there, man, day in, day out, and we rely on each other. Police needs fire, fire needs police, and just being out on those overpasses to honor Brian as he went down Highway 50 is huge, and it's a huge shout out to the membership for the respect they show. And I know it goes both ways. And again, it just reminds you day in, day out to hug your families. I know you as a board appreciate our people, and we appreciate our brothers in blue and sisters in blue as well. So we've had this conversation, I think, way too many times, personally for me, in the last couple of years that I've been up here. But I just wanted to say that. And I know we'll have a moment of silence, but thank you, unless you have any questions for me.
Questions? Thank you, Trevor. Appreciate it. All right, moving to committee and delegate reports. Executive Committee, we have reported out and no action was taken. Any next meeting will be announced. Second up, we have Communication Center, JPA, and we have Mr. Bridge on deck.
Yes, I'm substituting for Chief Wagaman at the moment. I was able to sit in for him on this board meeting. We did have a minor PAD adjustment for staff, which was budgeted for. There was a couple of temporary positions that'll be awarded for to help the comm center. It was noted that there's been a gap in the human resources side and the admin side, and also on the EMS side in terms of quality assurance and QI stuff. So that was approved. Other than that, there was no other action taken, and our next board meeting will be right here on November the 12th at 9 o'clock.
Thank you. Any questions regarding that item? All right, moving on, California Fire and Rescue, JPA. I'm confused about who would be reporting out. Is there no report out? No report. No report. Thank you, sir. All right, yes, thank you for the laborious report. Well done. Finance and Audit Committee, Director Kelly, thank you.
The Finance and Audit Committee met this evening. We received a report on the past 2 months. It's still early in the budget, roughly $227 million. So we will continue to keep an eye on things.
Thank you, sir. Policy Committee, Director Gould.
Policy Committee may meet November 14th, 5:30 in these chambers.
Thank you, sir. All right, board member questions and comments. I'm going to start all the way to my left, and we'll go across the board. Sir?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just tonight, keeping it quick, but I just want to thank 522 for coming up and talking about that presentation, and Chief Harms to have the foresight to get the women recognized. We're in a male-dominated profession, not only in the fire industry, but public safety. But to recognize that, to embrace it and support it, I think speaks to the volume of the people of this, I would say, this great department. Also, you talk about the deputy up in El Dorado Hills. As you know, it hits close to me, but I do my best in the morning not to check social media and or the media before I get to work. And as soon as I hit the freeway with my 10-year-old in the car and we see all the cars lined up and the engines, she recognized something wasn't right because something changed in me. And that's immediately when I went to the news. But to know that procession was coming down the hill and to see the membership out there to support that, I just want to thank everybody for that. It goes a long way. So for that, just thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Director?
Madam Chair, I have no comment tonight, keeping it brief.
Director Wood?
Same thing, I have no comment, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Gould?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just really quickly, our thoughts and prayers go out to the surviving family members and friends of the lost deputy. That is a tragedy, unmeasurable. We also tonight are wearing pink, and I just want to give a shout out to all of those individuals who have survived this devastating disease. And just our thoughts and prayers go to you as you go through those experiences. And we should wear pink every day, because if it wasn't for the women of the world, we'd be in serious trouble.
Thank you. Director Sailors?
I also want to thank Chief Harms for recognizing the women on the departments and getting them back to Boston. And thanks to 522 for making sure that they have funding to get back there for that. And also thank you to 522. A year ago at this time, I was campaigning very heavily with 522's help for this position right here that I'm sitting in. So thank you, Trevor, for all your help, and 522's for supporting me. And my hearts and thoughts are with the deputy that passed yesterday. Mm-hmm. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. We have two items here, and the one is thank you, Local 522, for supporting. Is that an outgrowth from Women in the Fire Service and Firework? And as a founding member back in 1982, I appreciate the sustained support that the fire service as well as firefighter unions contribute to that effort. And, well, we're doing it again. Would you all please rise in a moment of silence, sir? Oh, I'm, no, I gotta, did you want it? All right, moving on. Would everyone please stand for a moment of silence for Deputy Brian Ishmael? Thank you. Meeting's adjourned. Guys, you know what happens? No, I get all wrapped up.